Welcome to Revolution number 10, At the Table, a podcast where we're going to explore different solutions that just might change the world, from feasible to nonsense.
All right, here we go.
Hi, welcome back to Revolution number 10, At the Table. I'm here, my name is Anna. I'm here with Heather. And today we want to discuss the issue of Beyond Meat and the popularity of these new vegan products for people that are being promoted like, oh, don't eat meat anymore, eat these products instead, which kind of like confused me because although I don't eat a lot of meat, I felt like, okay, well, first of all, you're destroying an entire industry of people who are reliant on livestock production, farming dairy cows or beef cows or chickens or pork. That's a whole industry that's going to crumble if people just take off with this Beyond Meat stuff. Secondly, I thought to myself, well, what the heck? Like, you're taking all this soy, you're over processing it. So essentially to me, like a Beyond Meat burger is something like processed cheese, like it's not real food. And to be a vegetarian or a vegan, you don't need to eat that. And then thirdly, I thought to myself, Jesus, I wonder how much soy needs to be produced to go into this. And then I looked into soy farms, various like industrial farming. And I noticed that the environmental impact on, like we all know that like cow farms produce methane gas. We all know that chickens shit on themselves and produce disease in commercial products. Like, cool, we all know that. But what we forget is that when we overproduce even a vegetable, its environmental impact is just as equal to a livestock farm. You've got thousands of acres of soy. You're raping that soil. You are destroying that soil so that it's not functional for very long. And in my opinion, I think that's harsh. So I started thinking, okay, people are now so uppity about vegetarianism, veganism, and the environmental impact of meat, and yet you're hypocrites because you're eating these products that are overproduced. And so I just started to think, I think the problem is excess. Too much. Just too much. Too much. If we just do too much of any one thing, there's a problem, including the farming. So then I started to think of my time in Italy and my friends in Italy and how regulated it is. For example, COVID hit last year. My family in Italy, although COVID hit Italy very hard, very quickly, my family wasn't very concerned when they locked down the grocery stores, for example. Whereas in Toronto, we panicked. Well, how are we getting food if we can't get to a grocery store?
Right.
Whereas in most of the places, people that I know in Italy, they had their own gardens.
Yeah.
So access to food wasn't limited to just a store.
Yeah, what was at the store? What was available at arm's reach?
Right. They had enough food in their gardens, in urban centers, on balconies, or in their yards, front yards, no grass, just garden.
Yeah.
And so I thought to myself, well, geez, that sucks how reliant we are on grocery stores. And that if what I consider to be micro farming, but I've just discovered is actually considered urban farming, though I'm not opposed to micro farming, I think that would be a better way to approach it, right? It's just too much. Too much of anything is going to negatively impact the environment. I think we need to normalize gardening. Really, if you think about it, we don't have time to garden. If we want to pay our rent, who's looking after my garden?
Yeah.
Because you're working. There's the problem. But is it worth the externalized cost?
The farming that happens, I think, is so important for society to function. We need farming, but we also need to make sure that we're not exhausting our resources and the environment by doing that.
Right, obviously, Heather, that's what
But we are. But that's the problem, is that we are doing that. We have to learn to garden for ourselves, to survive for ourselves, and not be reliant on something that is perishable, first of all.
Okay, so great. If we all started gardening at home and stopped industrial farming and started micro farming, then there would be a whole nother level of shit. Because, first of all, we need time to plant and till and sow our own gardens. But in culture as it is right now, doesn't quite allow that.
Like work culture.
Yeah. Absolutely. And then bylaws. There's certain things you can or cannot have in your back. You can't have a pig.
You can't have chickens.
You can't have chickens in Toronto. Then it's almost like we're being forced to
buy what's available in the grocery store.
To this reliance on overproduced items. Going back to a former episode that we had recorded a few years ago, it also comes down to the quality of the product that's available. We also know in the grocery stores that there are different levels of quality when it comes to meat or produce even. I can get a locally grown organic apple, no problem at the grocery store, but I'm paying $3.99 a pound as opposed to $1.99. When that really bothers me, years ago I watched this documentary called Banana Land.
Banana Land?
Yeah, it's called Banana Land. Blood, guns, and bananas.
Blood guns.
I know, your face is hilarious. Essentially, the takeaways are that bananas are a racket. The one thing that it pointed out to me that I never considered was the banana coming from one of the farthest places is the cheapest fruit in the store. In every grocery store. Bananas are 57 cents. Why? Why are bananas 57 cents when an apple that's coming from less than 5 kilometers away is way more?
Way more.
And so that really bothered me. The documentary is to say that banana production in Guatemala actually causes more deaths than cocaine.
What?
Yeah, because it's such a racket that apparently back in the 1900s, the United Fruit Company, which was Dole and Chiquita together, they separated. They ran a racket on bananas. And so after that, I tried really hard to eat local. And I started to think about things like, shit, man, there's all these things that I really enjoy eating that actually have to be imported. If I want to eat a tomato and buy a locally grown tomato at my grocery store down the street, it's not available to me. I need to be able to grow my own tomatoes in my backyard, as opposed to growing tomatoes in Canada, shipping them over the border to be packaged, and then shipped back to Canada only to be charged triple the amount.
For the packaging, essentially.
And then, but then, okay, let's think about this. Let's approach the issue that will arise if we were to take industrial farming out of the equation and turn all of those industrial farms into micro farms, okay? A micro farm is a small scale agricultural operation that uses less than 5 acres of land and specializes in one particular type of vegetable
or fruit.
So, what is happening there then? How many individual people are actually employed by these industrial farms, especially when a lot of them are automated and machine operated?
Now,
Are we taking away jobs, or are we providing more jobs because through the micro farms, they will be taking less energy, polluting less soil? If every industrial farm is replaced with 100 micro farms,
I think
are we doing a disservice?
Industrial farming sprawls across many different kinds of farming. So it's not meat, like the meat industry, like you were mentioning before, and the Beyond Meat industry. Because the Beyond Meat industry is still just as big and sprawling as any dairy farm.
Right.
There's still things happening at both of these farms that affect the environment as well as the way that we consume the food.
So turning an industrial farm into a micro farm is going to lessen the environmental impact. But if there are 1,000 micro farms instead of one
big industrial farm, is that still creating the same issue but just now on a different scale?
I've said for a really long time, if you've listened to the podcast, you know that my background is Italian, and my backyard growing up as a child was 90% garden. Mm-hmm. It was 90% garden.
I had a garden growing up because of my dad. No matter where we lived, he always had a garden.
What was he growing?
Everything.
We had
tomatoes,
peas,
corn, lettuce, carrots, potato. Yep. We never had to go to the store for produce because we had it. He would do what was seasonal.
Growing up, we had 85% garden instead of grass.
Yeah.
I live in an Italian area, and if you go for a walk, a lot of the older Italian people, there's no grass. There might be a little patio.
Yeah.
But any space that is available is occupied by something that is consumable. If you think about it, when we buy, I don't know why I keep using tomatoes as a fucking example, but whatever, we'll stick with it. An item that we purchase from the grocery store, a fresh produce item, perishable item, we have approximately 2 to 5 days on that item before it starts to rot. When you grow your own vegetables, that same produce item lasts weeks.
Yeah.
We've lost so much shelf time to the shipping and transport and all that. So I had this crazy hippie notion. Okay, what I would consider to be a feasible solution, but because of the capitalist ideologies within our economic structure, possibly completely nonsensical. I had this great dream that we all start urban farming. We have eliminated grocery stores, or not so much eliminated them, but everybody has a fruit stand on the corner of their community. Yeah. But it's like one of those take a penny, leave a penny fruit stands.
Yeah.
And that was the original idea. And then, right, the idea of just humanity being humanity. And when you look at it, very rarely do people actually take one, leave one.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So it's just kind of like, I don't know what would actually happen there.
Well,
so
you do see, there are, farmers markets are all everywhere. And that's...
Heather has to drive in 5 hours from Northern Ontario to come see me now. She passes through a lot of farmland. That there are also a lot of vegetable stands. The thing that blows my mind, is how different the tomatoes from that vegetable stand, how much more flavor are in those tomatoes or zucchinis or apples than the ones that we do buy that have been sitting in a refrigerated truck for 2 weeks.
Been growing out of the same plot of soil.
Here's what's happening. We never have been an overly carnivorous genus of mammals because it wasn't viable. We weren't always eating steak or ham.
You foraged more than you hunted.
It's only this new convenience that meat has become a part of our day-to-day, meal to meal. How many people have to have meat to consider it a meal? That is a new thing. And I also believe that's more of a North American thing. Again, when I lived in Italy, if it wasn't a part of the meal, it wasn't a big deal. I am not condoning eating meat. I'm not saying that we have to eat meat. I'm also not saying that we all have to be vegetarians.
Yeah.
I think that if we kept things more local, if we were urban farming or micro farming and made things cost effective so that you don't have to opt for the fruit that is perpetuating the environmental impact of this industrial farm. And if you want to be a vegetarian, why do you want to eat these weird, unnatural products made to taste like meat? It's a gimmick. It's not real.
Yeah.
You don't need a beef flavored soy burger to be a vegetarian or a vegan. My life is mostly vegan because A, I'm diabetic, and B, I'm basically poor. When I cook food, it's beans and veggies.
With the zucchini frittatas that you just made yesterday.
Right. We have become a society of too damn much. And in the end, we're shooting ourselves in the foot. If we focused more, and it's up to us. I get it. I get that these are the products that are available. But they're available because we want them. Mm-hmm. So if we stopped purchasing certain products and started to command that we want priced appropriately local produce, for God's sake. Or somehow, let's fix the cost of living so that I can afford to
have a little garden.
Isn't that fucked that we don't even have time? We don't actually have time to garden unless you're a 2-family home making a 5-figure income annually. I have to work 2 to 3 jobs just to maintain. I don't know where the time is coming from. Essentially, I don't think that the world needs to be vegan. It's helpful. I'm actually really glad that these Beyond Meat products do exist.
It's a good option.
Because it's showing the people who are reliant on meat that they don't have to actually eat meat.
Yeah.
So I get that. Yeah. I get it. That is also, again, a construct of our culture here in North America. If we think about it historically, we eat what we can grow.
Yeah.
We've strayed from that. So that pineapple is important. Bananas. These are products that we've lived without for centuries that were elitist and expensive.
Imported because it needed to be imported before, but now we have evolved enough that we can have a pineapple tree if we really want to, but you got to learn how to grow it.
Well, maybe not in my backyard. I think that pineapple and that kind of tropical fruit would be maybe something that micro farms could look towards. The trouble is, if we replace the industrial farms with 1,000 micro farms, will the waste management still be a problem? Will the soil and water still be contaminated? Will the externalized cost still be more than the reduction of environmental impact? Right? So ideally, I think originally when I was thinking about micro farming, now I just want to put a shout out here for my friend Jane Goman. She is the one, she actually, as a listener, friend, and dairy farmer, suggested that this talk about quickly because it is an issue in Canada. The family farm has reduced because generationally, smaller farms have sold themselves out to corporate farms. That is the issue. And that's where micro farming comes in. When I was originally writing about micro farming, and thanks to Jane, I did do a little bit more research on it in terms of, trying to get the right points across. I originally was actually thinking about urban farming. And I know that there's a lot of structural issues around that. I think that it's somewhere that you can start feasibly. It's a solution that is a small solution that will lead to greater results. Yes.
And that you can contribute to yourself as well. It's a solution that you can start doing like tomorrow. The thing about a garden is once you start, then it's not such a huge thing. It doesn't feel like a big task because you're so used to the process. I have a backyard now. I'm pleased with that. And we started to grow herbs and peppers. And we want to start exploring more. And sometimes that's all it takes is just practice and trying to grow tomatoes like you keep bringing up.
Yeah.
Just try it. See what happens.
I don't want to bash vegans, but most of the people that I ask when they tell me every vegan I've ever met has told me I need to be a vegan. And my question for them is always, why are you a vegan? and I'm not bashing vegans, but if your reasoning for being a vegan is that you love animals or you love the environment, then it's about not being a hypocrite. It's about, if you're gonna be a vegan, then be a vegan. Then don't eat weird, overly processed soy products that are contributing to the increased environmental impact, especially when it comes down to packaging. Let's talk. I'm not even gonna go there.
No.
Anyway.
But I see where you said, when you were starting with Beyond Meat, like the Beyond Meat patty, people sometimes forget that there is still as much of a process getting the Beyond Meat onto the table as it is a burger.
Right.
It's not, there's very little difference. I think that obviously it's meat and not meat.
Right.
That's obvious. Like, there's still an industry behind it.
Right.
And industrial farming is straining more than we realize.
The environmental impact I want to stress here in terms of agricultural industrial farming on a massive scale. And there's still a lot that goes into it because every plant affects the soil differently.
Pesticides.
And you're using, even if you're not using the pesticides that harm people, you're still using pesticides that are harmful to the environment. It's a whole chain reaction. To reiterate, the solution here is micro-farming and urban farming. We need to normalize this, and I think that it may not be a solution that looks like a solution right now. I don't know if you've ever seen Idiocracy, but they're watering everything with this thing called...
like it's a Gatorade monster drink.
He starts watering it, but it's to the Idiocracy population, idiocratic population. They think it's taking too long for the water to make these plants grow. And so, long story short, everything works out in the end. Things start growing again, blah, blah, blah. But it takes time. And that's where this is at.
Yeah.
It's about a paradigm shift in thinking where we recognize the importance of clean food, of fresh vegetables. Jamie Oliver did this thing years ago. He went to schools and he went to a little elementary school in Italy. I think the kids were in grade 2. And then it was the same age group in the States with the same basket of vegetables.
Okay.
There was an eggplant, there were tomatoes, there was a fennel, there were potatoes, so there were some normal things.
Yeah.
And then some random vegetables. The Italian kids, they knew every single vegetable in there. The American kids, he did these interviews where the kids were like, I love fries and ketchup.
Yeah.
And they didn't even know what a potato and a tomato were.
Yeah.
That, to me, it's a mentality here. We are a culture of convenience. And it is that convenience where we will become a vegetarian but drive a gas-running vehicle to the store 5 blocks away.
Yeah.
So it's about recognizing our excess and reining it in.
Yeah.
You know, reining it in and doing little things. All over Europe, people grow full gardens on their balconies in high-rises. Our balconies are barren because nobody even thinks about it. So here we sit, revolution number 10, urban farming is the solution to deducing the environmental impact of factory farms. Even if we all stopped eating chicken every day and just had chicken on Sundays or Fridays or whatever, and that's kind of the good thing about the Beyond Meat is that it is reining it in. I think the bottom line is support local.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah.
I think that's the bottom line. If you're going to drink milk, then drink milk that's produced in Canada. If you're going to eat apples, look at the sticker on your fruit or vegetable and try to buy the one that says Canada on it.
Yeah.
I tried to live local a couple years ago after seeing the Banana Land thing. Tried to live local within 20 kilometers. It was... without a car, without the ability to drive to farmers markets,
it's hard.
It's very difficult.
Yeah.
So if we could all just support our own farmers, because that's what we need. You don't have to eat Beyond Meat. Have a salad instead. Have a soup. Have a locally grown, either by your garden or your neighbor or somewhere nearby. Yeah. It's not that hard. Anyway, I want to thank my dear friend Jane for encouraging me to do this, because I've been thinking about it, but I didn't know how relevant it was. It truly is relevant.
And thank you to our farmers. Like, our farmers work hard for all of us. Having a healthy balance with urban farming, micro farming, that will relieve the stress of mass production.
Yeah. In the end, it's about moderation. It's about recognizing mass farming impacts us all. If you can't grow your own garden, then at least
support local.
Support local. I mean, really, when it comes down to it, we have the power to tell our representatives that we don't want to have such massive farms. There are a lot of large family farms that are not impacting the environment.
Yeah, it's large scale, but it's not huge.
Yeah, it may not be a micro farm, but it's still not a factory farm or an industrial farm or a corporate farm.
Yeah.
That's still supporting local. And those farms actually provide a lot of jobs, which contribute to our economy. I don't want to slash and burn the Canadian economy, but I do know that our farmers are suffering right now, and they need our support.
Yeah.
And that's the thing. And in turn, if you're just going to do it to be hip, #save the Canadian farmers, then cool, because you're still helping. In the end, it's going to help our farmers, and we will all be eating healthier anyway.
Yeah.
That's it. So thank you all for listening. My name's Anna.
I'm Heather.
And you're at the table.
Thanks for joining us, and can't wait to see you guys next time.